Racism. Australia has had an infamous history with it. However, today, many Australians believe our multicultural country is reconciled and we happily live in an inclusive society, despite a few rare occasions of any trouble. But is that really the case? Is Australia still filled with racism? Is our land down under still filled with racists?
My son doesn't want to sit near someone of your race. That's totally his opinion, and neither do I.
This is what us Australians, us original Aussies fought for, to keep you black out.
But firstly, what does the word racism really mean? We asked the public what they think it means.
I think that racism is if you make a judgment or a decision about someone based on what they look like or where they're from without actually knowing anything else about them.
People judge people by their skin color is not very good because people born in different color, everyone should be equal, like have the equal rights.
The ideology that gives expression to myths about other racial and ethnic groups, which devalue and render inferior them. According to the anti-racism organisation Altogether Now, 4.625 million people living in Australia today have been racially abused in the past year. That's the same amount of people in the entire state of Queensland. That's 1 in 5 people that have been discriminated against for something that they can't change, their race. Ruben Salamo is one of those 5.
As a boy growing up, I grew up in Sydney and it was quite multicultural down there. And when I moved here to Brisbane and went to primary, I was the only black kid in the whole school. A lot of the white boys, I felt really bad when they started to pick on me. They're just saying really racial comments. For example, Africans and Samoans, they have like a lot of racial tension because of the different backgrounds.
Thanks for that report. But can we really blame ourselves for our attitude and behaviour? Do the Australian media have a role to play in this issue? Many Australians believe that the media's exaggeration of racism just adds fuel to the fire. Racial abuse expert Peter Jackson and head of Reconciliation Queensland Incorporated explains.
Australian media has a great role to play. It doesn't matter what form of media, of course. You've got social media as well now. I think that it has played a role, a critical role, as I said, but it can play a very positive role in the future. It allows us to get the message out across the Australian population and make real change about closing the gap for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people in particular.
Take this next clip for example. Many may remember in 2012 when 300 Muslims gathered in the Sydney CBD to protest against an anti-Islam film, Innocence of Muslims. Things got out of hand when the protesters began to throw bottles at the police. And according to the Australian media, it was
a Muslim uprising.
Uprisings.
An uprising that included hundreds of people who were drawn in from social media, threw bottles and rocks, and had to have special police brought in to disperse them.
Look, last year there was a big incident of riots against a cultural group, particularly a Middle Eastern group, and their religion was highlighted. They were identified as being of a particular religious group within our society. And that's really unfortunate that happened. But sometimes the frustration builds up within society to the point where people react, they feel isolated and not included.
Now let's look at the next report on the same weekend about a similar incident, carefully found out by The Chaser.
Police in Perth were pelted with bricks, rocks and glass bottles. Around 500 people turned up in Piara waters after word spread on Facebook. Officers called in reinforcements, including mounted police, the dog squad and the police helicopter to disperse the crowd.
However, the incident was only
an out-of-control party in the city's southeast
that was reported on once and then forgotten about. Maybe we think racism is increasing because of how we are so connected these days. We are constantly updating our news feeds, trying to stay on top of what's trending. These videos that were shown at the beginning of the film showcase how easy it is for one racial attack to be seen by the whole of Australia, even the world, through social media and the internet. Anyone with a smartphone is able to film and take photos of anything, anywhere, anytime. While technology has made us more aware of racism, it's done nothing to stop it. Now that everyone is connected, people can be terrorised anywhere, even in their own home.
Racism, especially in social media. I remember once I was looking at Facebook and I saw this racist joke, which is very negative towards Africans, and it was more on how African people eat food, and I read it and I found it very disrespectful.
We now know some of the factors that may be influencing this country's racist nature. But what is really being done to stop this?
We're being supported by the Commonwealth Government nowadays to promote reconciliation and to promote recognition of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples, because that has never been done in this country. They don't have a treaty, and they're certainly not acknowledged in our constitution. What is in our constitution is that there is reference to governments can actually discriminate against races of people, groups of people by race, and they can clearly discriminate against them in that area. So our constitution will actually take away that discrimination within our constitution, and that's a very positive thing. And I think there needs to be a lot of work done by all people in this country to bring about reconciliation and understanding of the various cultures that make up our society.
Yeah, in regards to racism, I'd like to see more reconciliation between different races integrating from different backgrounds, whether African, Polynesian, or Australian. It'd be awesome to have everybody integrated together and in society and have fun together.
In today's society, I want to see different cultures just all treat each other the same, like Chinese, Indians, Africans, Samoans, Tongans, Papua New Guineans, and just all live together.
Australia prides itself on our freedom of speech. Everyone has the right to say or believe what they want, but treating people unfairly because of where they come from or the colour of their skin is never okay. And a lot of the time, it's actually against the law. The Racial Discrimination Act 1975 was Australia's first anti-discrimination law and protects everyone in Australia from the unfair treatment on the basis of their race. So maybe you should think twice about how your actions affect others, because what you say or do matters.